Okay, so greetings to you all Ifrikya FM listeners and welcome to this special broadcast and our distinguished guest for today's episode, and he's the Vice President of the Filaha Inov, also known as the GRFI, and also he's an expert in agriculture. I am delighted to be joined today in our studios by Mr. Brahim Zitouni, who will be sharing with us insight on food sovereignty within the African continent. Welcome with us, Mr. Brahim.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you for accepting. And, Algiers is the capital of Algeria that will be hosting the Pan-African Food Debate on May 20th to May 21st, an event organized by GRFI, bringing together key stakeholders and professionals in agriculture and beyond to discuss the Pan-African Food Debate.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, Mr. Zitouni, could you provide us with more details and what are the, or its key components?
Okay, the Pan-African Food Debate is an idea that has been generated, first of all, inside the group GRFI, which is a think tank specialized in agriculture matters. This small group, at the light of the events in after the COVID and during COVID-19, but also at the light of the war between Russia and Ukraine, and also we have witnessed the difficulties that Sudan is going through, as Sudan is the country that is providing most of the food to the African continent, but also to the Arabic world. All these geopolitical issues have led us to try to design a new thinking about the food debate and about food security. And this is why we have launched the idea to discuss, not only in Algeria, but through Africa, and first of all with the countries, our neighboring countries, so that we can try to at least diminish the burden of our supplies, organizing ourselves between ourselves up to a certain extent, so that we can exchange our excess supplies between us to try to strengthen the gross materials, particularly agriculture raw materials, between our countries in a way where we can secure them more than if we bring them from Europe, which is now entering into, it seems, an era of perturbation.
Exactly. However, what sets this event apart from other events, given that this event is holding the first edition here in Algiers? So what sets this event particularly from other events similar in your view?
Well, I think that the most important point is that we have to share between Africans our strength, and to exchange strength, to try to build a wealth in the region. Instead of exchanging crisis, we would like to exchange wealth that our peasants can bring to each of the nations that are involved in this business. So the great idea is to try to make operational this wish, and for that we have we have engineered an exhibition which name is CIPSA Africa Food Export. It is a trade exhibition that will allow actors of the different countries, different African countries, to exchange goods between them each year. And along with this exhibition, there will be each time a Pan-African food debate. This exhibition and this Pan-African food debate will travel across the continent, so that we can slowly construct together with all people that share our thoughts. We can try slowly to build something common.
Indeed, this is a good idea. Previously, during our sitting together, you mentioned in the passing that you will be expressing the food security issue through art. So, could you please explain more? Why has the artistic, expression been chosen as a medium for discussing such critical aspect and to express this topic?
Thank you for this interesting question. In fact, I would not say art, I would say culture, because it's wider.
Okay.
Yes, indeed, we think that the culture is a very powerful tool to express and to appropriate to ourselves the necessary or the necessity of changes. The culture and its various expressions, either painting, films, animated drawings, whatever, cartoons, and so on. All these kind of cultural expressions explaining the importance of the food and the link to the earth and to the identity, because earth and identity are very closely linked, then this way of showing the issues, or this way of expressing the difficulties which we have with the food security, would maybe allow a better understanding of the challenges to grab. So the idea is for us to be able to be much more understood to the wider populations or people. The best way would be through culture. And in the same time, the idea behind it is to initiate a cultural movement that would go with the exhibition, but also with the conference, so that we can complete our ways to see a complex reality with a complex tool, which is the culture, a tool powerful and able to better mediate the thinking that we are looking for.
Yes, indeed. Previously, you mentioned several issues in the passing, including post-COVID situation. And if we put the geopolitical landscape into consideration, the geopolitical aspect, upheavals like the conflict in Ukraine as well as in Sudan, the insecurity parts of Africa have exacerbated, or I'm going to say highlighted, existing food insecurity challenges in our wide continent. So therefore, how would you assess the food security in Africa today?
Yeah, here we are talking about a very important point, which is the necessity to all the African countries to promote a stable and secure environment, because trade is the basis of the construction of eras of prosperities. We want to exchange prosperity and not crisis. For this, we have to make sure that the nations and the states are able to secure their populations to avoid crisis. It's the crisis that provoke insecurity. It's not insecurity that provoke crisis. It's always the same story, and this point is essential for us. So we would always promote peace, trade, and exchange with more power, so that we can stabilize our countries, which all are express a very dynamic demography, and this is a constraint that has to be taken into account to try to understand how urgent is the necessity to build something in common, so that we can avoid a difficult future.
Indeed. Recently also there was like climate change disruptions that have emerged as significant factors in the food equation, and it has caused a lot of damage. So what are the current and future effects of these disruptions on food security in Africa?
Well, it depends. If we speak of North Africa, the issue is just only temperature. And this is, even if it's a constraint, a heavy constraint, it's not like the tropics. In Middle Africa, you will have more humidity and because more rains. And this is much more difficult to challenge than a drier environment. So Africa will have difficult challenges of various natures. And it's the reason why we have to work with the agronomic centers of Africa to try to prepare ourselves to those challenges. Meanwhile, I would like to underline that our environment is dry or is very humid since decades, and if not centuries. And our genetics in our animals or in our vegetables are already adapted to these conditions. So nature and peasants have already done the work of selection through their hybridation that they have done with their way of looking at the nature very accurately. This experience has to be preserved and has to be the source of more value, if you wish. Of course, science can always improve those seeds that are already adapted to the dry environment or to the very humid environment. And for this, we welcome scientific exchange to try to work on the genetics of it. But if you wish, Africa has been naturally, with its peasants at work, a natural laboratory of adaptation, which is already in working, into being, if you wish. Of course, it could be accelerated by science and technology. And this is why we hope that cooperation in that field will help to new findings and new seeds much more adapted to the situation that is coming.
Yes, the scientific and technological solutions are definitely a good point to consider. And despite being considered the cradle of humanity and like the bread basket of the world, Africa still grapples with issues such as malnutrition and food insecurity and famines. Unfortunately, for example, in Sudan during this conflict, during this armed conflict, are suffering from famine, even though they were like one of the most countries that used to export wheat to the African nations. So what strategies should the African governments adopt to tackle these challenges and achieve genuine food sovereignty of all African nations?
Yeah. In the case of Sudan, I think that stability of the state is the center of the issue. We hope that the conflict that is now going in Sudan will come to an end very quickly, but I think that the best is to strengthen the state of Sudan, the official state of Sudan, so that it can concentrate on the real issues and not struggle of powers which are a bit useless.
How about the farmers? What strategies should the farmers adopt to tackle these challenges?
It's very difficult because, in fact, it's transversal challenges. And for a farmer, you cannot ask a farmer to do something else than farming. He's expert in farming. You cannot ask him additionally to try to solve issues that are much bigger than himself. We just would like to say to the people that are involved in these kind of struggles that it would be wise and much wiser to try to find solutions in a democratic way, in a peaceful way, so that the nations and the people do not suffer as they are suffering. Insecurity is the source of malnutrition, and when we solve this insecurity issue, then we have solved maybe half of the problem of malnutrition. Then after it's a matter of organizing public policies so that we can help the ones that are in need.
Indeed. One last question for you, Mr. Zitouni, before we conclude this interview. Since you're also a senior journalist previously at the Algerian radio, and since you're first-hand witnessed how media is promoting Africa simultaneously with everything happening in Africa, like the conflict in Sudan, for an example, what do you think about our radio, Ifrikya FM channel, a radio that created by Africans for Africans to promote the Pan-Africanism under the motto of the Voice of Africa, as a senior journalist, of course?
Well, it's thank you for these kind words, but see, what is very interesting in your experience is, first, you are an integrated African pool of journalists. This is very important because very often we can see the news from different point of view, and the fact that a full pool of journalists is working together on African issues is a very challenging but a very extraordinary adventure. So this is an experience, I think, quite unique in the African continent, and I wish you the best to proceed on. I'm also impressed by the network of correspondence that you have in all the countries. I find this way of working on a continental or at least a subcontinental area very, very interesting, and really I wish you to deepen, to strengthen this kind of cooperation between you, and all the best.
Thank you for your kind words. Indeed, that was insightful pieces of information you shared with us today. And that concludes our special interview for today. Thank you, Mr. Zitouni, for accepting our invitation.
You're welcome, madam.
Thank you. And once again, Mr. Zitouni is the Vice President of GRFI and also an expert in agriculture. To our listeners, mark your calendars for May 20th and 21st to delve into the intricacies of food security. And if you want to recap, don't forget to follow us through our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Radio Ifrikya FM, also through our app on Play Store, Ifrikya FM. Dear listeners, stay on our wave, stay informed until next time. This is Iman Nouad, tuning out.